Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the SmackDown report for the 30th of April 2021. Some good stuff. Surprising, although not surprising, story developments, and a better than average SmackDown, I guess. Although, ultimately not, you know, I think something that's best for business. Throwback edition of SmackDown is announced for next week. Seth Rollins and Cesaro will go at it, apparently. Anyway, Throwback edition basically means we're running out of ideas. Awesome. For a company that's been around since 1963. Sometimes I think it'd be better if it was put out to pasture. Anyway, Michael Cole, Pat McCaffrey discussed the Universal title match between Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan. They pushed it as being one of the greatest matches in SmackDown history. Why do they overhype things? I mean, if it ends up being that, say it then. Don't say it before it happens. Idiots. Anyway, Bianca Belair segment. She opens, makes her way to the ring. They pipe in the EST chant, and McCaffrey points out the audience loves her. Belair welcomes everyone to the show. Starts introducing Street Profits. Ziggler and Rude interrupt her. They begin to speak and take over away from her. Street Profits interrupt them immediately. Ford couldn't believe that they interrupted the SmackDown Women's Champion and WrestleMania main eventer. Bayley's music hit and interrupts. Street Profits, she jumps in the ring and grabs the mic, and she begins to laugh uncontrollably. Belair then knocks Bayley down, attacks her. Street Profits and Ziggler and Rude jump in, and a brawl breaks out. They announce next week is a throwback edition of SmackDown. We go into a six-person tag match, which wasn't actually bad. I'm not a fan of the Street Profits at this point, although they have grown on me over what they used to be. To me, they're just a poor person's crime time and a rehash gimmick, but I understand their place, and them being in an intergender match with, I think, the best woman that they've developed in the last 2 or 3 years, Bianca Belair, certainly does them good. And Bayley is one of the best people on the brand, period, or in WWE, period. So this is good. Match starts during commercial, which is an awesome way to get people excited about wrestling. Anyway, Bayley is in control. Belair fights back. Bayley rolls out of the ring. They brawl all the way around. Ford drops down to tie his shoelace. Belair knocked him down and knocks down Bayley. Ford then hits a dive to the floor, wipes out the heels. Heels regain control, isolate Ford, and Ziggler and Rude give Ford a double suplex, get a near fall, and Ziggler slows things down and hits a splash in the corner. Ziggler tries a super kick. Ford hits a super kick of his own. Dawkins hot tags in, goes nuts, gives Ziggler a suplex, hits a twisting splash on Rude. Dawkins hits a neckbreaker, gets a near fall out of that. Bianca Belair tags back in, lifts Ziggler under her shoulders. Bayley cut her off. Belair hits the KOD. Heels fight back. Rude rolls up Dawkins. Belair makes the save. Doing the hair whip deal. Dawkins then gives Rude Spinebuster, and Ford hits Frog Splash for the win. Fine match, fun match. It was okay. Caleb Braxton interviews Daniel Bryan in the back. Bryan notes that his career is on the line, but so is Reigns. He promises to tap him out tonight. Bryan says if he wins, the title first defense will be against Cesaro. Seth Rollins gives a prediction for Reigns versus Bryan. He makes fun of Bryan promising to defend the title against Cesaro. Rollins picks Bryan to win the title, but Cesaro won't be getting the first title shot. They recap Tamina beating Nia Jax. This new girl, Megan, interviews Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and Reginald. Baszler notes that they lost in singles matches but promised to win tonight. Natalya and Tamina attack them from behind in a segment that no one cares about, but a, I guess, passable match for the standards of these four. Natalya and Tamina defeat Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Baszler, the only one in there that I'd still have on my roster, but that's just me. Tamina attacks Jax on the top of the bell. They go nuts. Knocks Baszler off the apron and attempts to splash her off the ropes. Jax gets her knees up, Heels take over. Tamina is cut off from her partner. Tamina tries to fight back, tries to slam Nia Jax, falls backwards. Baszler tags in, attacks Tamina with the arm. Tamina fights back and slams down Baszler. Baszler has nobody to tag. Jax rolls out to the floor. Natalya runs wild, hits a German suplex for a near fall. Tamina tags back in, climbs to the top. Reginald tries to interfere. Natalya pulls him down. She tries to put him in the sharpshooter. Baszler locks in the Kikina clutch, throws Natalya over the announce table. Because, yeah, we need these women brawling on the floor, don't you know? Baszler then attempts a superplex. Tamina knocks her off, then hits a super splash for the win. Booker T picks Roman Reigns to win after the break. Shinsuke Nakamura picks Bryan. Kayla Braxton interviews Rey and Dominic Mysterio. They talk about becoming the first father-son tag team champions. Haven't they been talking about this for at least 6 months now? They air a Twisted Mind Aleister Black vignette. Black read from the Tales of the Dark Father again. He reads the second chapter, titled Reality, tells the story of people going through life and making all sorts of controversial decisions. His father told him the truth. He learned that there's something wrong with everyone, and he could give you the keys to escape, but you could choose not to. They recap Cruz versus Big E at Mania. Megan, the interviewer, returns. Big E wants his baby back tonight. He promises to win and become a 3-time Intercontinental Champion. Do you remember when being a 1-time Intercontinental Champion meant something? I do. They show Cruz and Elise in the back. Then Big E enters the ring for the match. They recapped Cruz beating Owens from last week. Big E defeats Intercontinental Champion Apollo Crews with Commander Aziz by DQ. Hard-hitting match until they give you a throwaway finish, because you know those network Peacock previews have to do ratings. Anyway, trade waist locks early. Big E overpowers. Big E then caught Cruz in an abdominal stretch, hits a back elbow. Big E drags Cruz onto the apron, hits a series of forearm shots, follows up with a big splash on the apron for near fall. Cruz fights back and then gives Big E a suplex to the arena floor. Big E gives Cruz suplex, but Cruz fights back. He sends Big E to the floor again, hits a moonsault off the apron, and Big E avoids frog splash, hits a belly to back suplex, follows up with a splash for near fall. Big E attempts big ending. Cruz avoids it, kicks him in the face, attempts a splash in the corner, but Big E hits a Uranagi for another near fall. Match isn't really that bad. It's just the finish. Well, we'll get there in a second. Anyway, Big E attempts a spear off the apron. Cruz hits a Death Valley driver on the apron. All these apron spots are gotta go. It's too indie, and it's dangerous and unnecessary. Follows up with a frog splash for another near fall. Big E recovers, hits the big ending on Cruz. The Aziz pulls out Big E for the DQ. Post-match, Cruz and Aziz beat down Big E until Owens runs down. Heels overpower Owens, but then Big E comes back in. Sami Zayn comes out, gives Owens the haluva kick. Cruz is furious at Zayn picking up the title. Zayn kept saying he has no problem. Aziz hits the Nigerian nail on Zayn anyway, and well, hey. Miz and Cesaro give their predictions for tonight's title match. You can imagine how that goes. In the back, they show Roman Reigns. They recap the angle with Reigns, Cesaro, and Daniel Bryan. Kayla Braxton interviews Paul Heyman. Heyman's sick of hearing Bryan's name. Heyman gives an amazing interview discussing all the accomplishments of Bryan while saying yes. Heyman wondered if Bryan can win the title tonight and says no. They recap Daniel Bryan beating Triple H, Randy Orton, and Batista WrestleMania 30, back when WrestleMania actually meant something, all the way back almost 8 years ago now. They recap that, and King Corbin gives his thoughts and obviously sides with Reigns. Anyway, Universal Champion Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman defeats Daniel Bryan to retain the title. Bryan's banished from SmackDown. They certainly did push this match as something special, which was a good idea. Reigns gets a new entrance. They do decent ring introductions. Uh, Good match, tells a great story. I wonder where they go with Bryan from here. Bryan hits a running dropkick at the bell. Reigns recovers and hits Bryan with just a single shot. Bryan fights back, goes for the yes lock. Reigns goes to the floor. Bryan continues the attack and hits a sliding dropkick and a dive off the apron. We go to break. We come back. Bryan's in control. He's going after the arm of Reigns. Hits a bunch of running drop kicks in the corner. Reigns recovers and hits a clothesline. Reigns takes over, hits a snap suplex and a 2 count. Reigns then slows the pace down and applies a chinlock. Bryan fights out, runs up the buckle. Reigns then catches him with a back elbow. Bryan drops Reigns face first into the second turnbuckle. Bryan attempts to run off the top rope. Reigns counters and hits powerbomb for near fall. Back from the break, Reigns beats him down. They brawl around ringside. Reigns then places Bryan on the top rope, but Bryan slips out just barely. Anyway, Bryan then hits a back suplex off the top, follows up with the yes kicks. Reigns avoids last one with a Samoan drop. Reigns attempts a Superman punch. Bryan hits a kick to the injured arm that he's been working on earlier. Bryan attempts a dive. Reigns catches him with a belly to back suplex. And then Reigns attempts a spear on the floor. Bryan moves out of the way. Reigns then crashes through barricade. And Bryan hits a diving headbutt after the break from the top for near fall. A la Dynamite Kid. Bryan goes for the running knee. Reigns hits a Superman punch for a 2 count. Reigns then attempts the spear. Bryan counters with a small package. And Bryan then hit a second knee for near fall. Reigns gets his foot over the bottom rope. Bryan gets the yes lock on, and Reigns reverses it and gets a near fall off that. Reigns then jumps to his feet, hits a spear for a very close 2 count, and they struggle to their feet. Reigns locks the guillotine submission. Bryan breaks free, applies the yes lock, and Reigns falls to the ropes. Bryan pushes back to the middle of the ring. Reigns breaks free, hits Bryan with a series of shots. Follows up with a powerbomb and more forearm shots. Reigns hits a second powerbomb. Reigns then tries to apply the guillotine, but Bryan fights free, then switches a good arm and reapplies the guillotine. Bryan passes out. Reigns gets the title. McCaffrey and Cole push that Bryan is now banned from SmackDown post-match. Reigns grabs some chairs, brings him in the ring, places Bryan's head in one of them. Cesaro's music hits. Cesaro runs wild on Reigns. Jey Uso attacks, but Cesaro takes him out too, ties him up in the rope. Reigns then gives Bryan a concerto in front of Cesaro, and we close the program. Overall, the Bryan match is worth going out of your way to see. However, everything else wasn't bad, but there's nothing else you have to see. And I don't understand why there's the women's tag in the middle when you're trying to promote a really kind of once-in-a-lifetime show. We'll be back with more right after this.